Hi, friends and family,
Welcome to Hope After Addiction
with your hosts, Katie Comer.
and Chelsea McLeod.
Hi, welcome to Hope After Addiction. We are so happy that you've joined us today for another episode. How are you today?
I am well. How are you?
Good. We just came off of our fall break.
Yeah. Did y'all do anything?
Yeah, so we kind of did, we went away for one night. I surprised the kids with one of Ella's best friends showed up in our driveway.
What?
And we all went to Chattanooga for the night and got like an adjoining room. And it was so fun because we'd never done anything like that with like friends like that before. And so, yeah, we went up to Ruby Falls. I don't know if you're local. That's such a fun little trip.
I'll say, what did you?
Have you
I
been?
love Chattanooga. We haven't done Ruby Falls.
Yeah, so Ruby Falls is interesting. It's a cave, and you walk through the cave. It's like an hour and a half, and then it ends in like a waterfall.
Yeah.
And the story behind how it was found is just really interesting. So, and he named the waterfall after his wife, Ruby, and it's just so sweet.
That's so cool.
I meant to call Adam that night going, he literally crawled for hours, and he dug through and found this waterfall and named it after his wife. What are you doing?
Where's my waterfall?
Where's my waterfall in my cave that you
Yeah.
like? It's an amazing story.
Oh,
And he's super romantic.
that's
Leo, I think is his name.
Leo and Ruby.
I know. It was cute.
Precious.
But anyway, so we went to Ruby Falls. We went and spent the night in a hotel
Oh,
and got up, went to the aquarium the next day.
I've heard that's a good aquarium.
It's a good aquarium. Jasper would love it.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah. And they have like a riverside and an ocean side. So 2 different buildings.
Cool.
And I prefer the ocean side.
Yeah.
A lot of people like the riverside.
Yeah.
But
For the
I feel like
bass.
sharks and
Yeah.
they have the penguins,
Oh, I love a
which are
penguin.
super fun. I mean, those things, they
Yeah.
dive in deep, hop out of that water real fast. I'm like, that's wild. They had this like round thing that one of the penguins like jumped on in the water and it floated. It was like a game to him.
What?
It was so funny.
So
But it was
much fun.
I know. We had a good time. And then the rest of the week, we just kind of did stuff around
Yeah.
Smyrna, Nashville area.
Just experiences is what I love.
it was.
That'll be special though.
Yeah.
Mom surprised us when I was little, and it was Christmas morning, and we woke up, and she's like, "Pack your bags," and it was just Mom and Ethan and I.
Oh.
So we had no idea. I kind of had a little inkling of where, but it was to the Outer Banks,
Oh.
and still to
yeah.
this day, it is forever the most precious memory.
Oh.
I haven't gone back since, and I told John I want to go back, but I'm like, I don't want to taint that memory,
Yeah.
you know? But it's just, that's fun stuff to be able to do with your kids. And it's simple. It's close. It's not, you know.
Yeah, it was a fun week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think that a couple of times they each said, I'm having so much fun. And even Ella, it was so sweet. Even Ella, I think it was Saturday or Sunday night, she just looks at me and she was laying in bed. She goes, Mom, thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for Daddy
my
for all that he
goodness.
does. Like she had such a grateful heart. And it was just like so pure. It was, and she's just, thank you so much for it. Cause she recognized like, this is for you. It may not be grandeur, like going across the world or going across the United States, but it was simple. And she recognized that. So it was sweet.
The lessons from the babes.
I know.
Yeah.
Speaking of lessons.
I know, right?
Today we are actually talking about what God's really teaching us, what lessons God's teaching us personally in Scripture and just in life. And so we texted each other about what we were going to be talking about. I think we even talked about this last week or last time we were together, just about doing what is God really teaching us, because inevitably what God's teaching us can in turn, like I'm excited to hear about what God's teaching you because it's really going to preach to me. You know, it always ends up that way. I'm like, I really needed to hear that.
Yes.
So we hope that what we talk about as you're listening to our podcast, that you will get some encouragement from what God's teaching us. So with that said, Chelsea, what's God teaching you?
Well, it's funny. I was talking to a friend this morning because it's been a heavy season.
Yeah.
And I get emotional.
But
But
that's what we do here. Get
right,
emotional.
and she told me that she was like, that is why you do this, is because like even what you've come from, doesn't mean that life is still perfect. And like you are going through storms and you will continue to go through storms. And that is why we do this, because like we're still walking through things. And I think I said this, but I told the girls this on our family day that we had. And I said, I'm sitting in the circle with you. Yeah. I'm not better than you. I don't know more than you do. I'm not more experienced. Like I'm sitting here as one of you. So, you know, coming this morning, she's like, cry. Like if that's what I said, I just don't want to weep. I'm okay to cry. And it's just been, but you know, it's been a heavy season. And so that is one of my, I think Isaiah 55:8-9 is what I guess has come to me the most without understanding. Cause like, we don't know what God's doing. We can't see what God's doing. Only he can see that, and only he knows that. But the verse, it says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts more than your thoughts. And so even in this season, there's a lot of change in this season. Yeah. I actually personally love change. I don't mind moving. I love change. It's just something, it does make me happy. Me. That's in its complete personality.
I know. Yeah.
A lot of people don't. Yeah.
Even down to my food. I eat the same thing every day.
You're like, I know. Yes. And it's all like, some people love it. Some people don't, you know,
but moving. I'm like, Adam's like, what about like, let's like think about where we want to live and doing all this stuff. Do we want to get a new house? I'm like, I love our neighborhood.
Yep. Right here.
It's great.
Yeah.
He's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm staying. Yeah. And so it's just all, you know, preference. And I think season too has a lot to do with it. Yeah. But there's just been a lot of change, a lot of grieving, not death, but grieving situations, stances, relationships, just that kind of stuff. And so I went to the cabin a few weeks ago, Papa's cabin that we go to every year. I went by myself. It was my first weekend away from Jasper. Yep. And it was I was listening to a song on the way, and Fragile Heart. It's a really good song. I forget who sings it. But it came on and I was like, that's what I feel right now. I just feel like I have a fragile heart and a very still heart. I'm in a place where I have just been very still with God, like been off of social media, been away, been saying no to more. Just even tonight, John's like, hey, do you want to go over there when I get done hunting? And I'm like, I don't. I just want to be here tonight. You know, like I just need a night here. And so it's just been one of those seasons. And I was on my way back from North Carolina, and God said, I'm still continuing to strip you of people so that you still remember to run to me. And I was like, okay, God, okay. You know, it
can be so scary.
It's
of the
terrifying.
Unknown and what you're so used to.
Yeah. So, and I think and Melissa watches this. Y'all know Melissa. She is precious, and I am so excited for them. Yeah. So excited. You know. They are our couple. They've always been our couple. God has called them somewhere else, states away. And so it's hard because we love them. And I think it definitely goes back to the addiction of many of you watching. They have walked this with us for 6 years. Our go-to, they know everything about us.
They were in the heaviness of
the depth, walk through the holes with us, got down in the holes with us. Yeah. John's person and my person, and so it's one of those seasons where God is like, I am still stripping you of humans because you still have to run to me. The morning Papa died, he had a devotion, and I was like, I just need it to talk to me. Like, God, I need you to speak. And the very devotion of what he had written that day, 7 years prior, was, when there's no other human you can run to, I'm the one you run to. And I was like, okay, God.
I get it.
Yep. And so on the way from Papa's cabin a few weeks ago, I had gotten the news of Jeff and Melissa, and I was like, okay, God, you are still stripping me of humans so that I run to you. So it's just been a very still, quiet, fragile season where I'm just running to God, sitting at his feet, being that one that's like, I don't need anything but you right now, because I know that everything else will taint that. And I know that with my fragile heart, he's the only one that I need to be with right now. So
Yeah.
lots of blessings, lots of tweaking, and it's precious. I'm like, all right, we'll be in Florida like half the year with you guys. You know?
Yeah.
But,
Not free place to stay in Florida.
Yes, but I will
Yeah.
tell you on that, and Melissa said this to me the other day. We were in the car, and I've never thought about it this way, and I'm going to use her line. Thanks, Melissa. But she said, who is the one person that God would literally strip us from our family, our friends, our church, everything that we're happy and comfortable for? Who's the one person that he would take us to Florida to help lead to salvation?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whew.
Mm-hmm.
And then found out that my brother lives an hour away.
Oh, really?
The one that is struggling and
Wow.
has been struggling. And I'm like, God, you're so good.
Wow.
There's other like divine placement. And so I see fruits all around, but it's taken me getting still
it's
with
not
God.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that it's been a heavy season for you. And, I think that with us being in front of the camera, a lot of times people see the goodness of the Lord. And I'm so thankful that you see the goodness of the Lord.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it comes without
Yeah.
like trials. And
Oh,
it doesn't
yeah.
mean that God's still not teaching us like through some of the valleys that we're kind of walking through. It might not look exactly the same valley you're walking through. He's pulled us from some of those same valleys, but there's still stuff, and I'll get to mine in a minute, that God is really teaching us. And we're hoping that it might be daunting.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to deal with this for the rest of my life. But that God is still good, and He, in His goodness, will carry you through those valleys. And
Yeah.
so, for you to share your heart, as hard as it is, and you did
Yeah.
great.
Well, thank you. I didn't ugly weep.
No, you didn't ugly weep, but that God is still, that you're still so confident in the Lord because of everything He's brought you through.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's such an encouragement. So bravo. man.
Well,
That's
thanks,
so good.
sister. But it's sanctification, and it's verbatim
Yeah.
in the Bible. But like, if you're not in a storm, you're going into one, or you're coming out
Yeah.
of one. Like, that is life. But
Yeah.
the more we sanctify ourselves to God, the easier it becomes, because He is the one that we run to. And even that morning, I did cry all night. I will tell you that. That's okay. Melissa and Jeff have cried for 2 months plus. Like, it's not easy on anybody, and all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah.
But I got to go do this hike that I've wanted to do forever. So literally, I can see the peaks of all different mountains, and I'm the only one on this peak by myself.
Really?
And I'm like, God, you are
That's so
so
brave.
cool, because you give me this time and this moment at Junaluska exactly what I needed. I mean, He's just so cool. But when you look for Him, look for me and you will find me. Like, it's here.
Seek me.
Seek me. And so that's been this season, is just seeking Him and putting away everything that doesn't matter and focusing on Him.
What mountain or what hike did you do?
Max Patch. It's
I've heard of
it's
that.
outside of Asheville. It's a beautiful, you can do sunset or sunrise, but it's because you could see literally 360. It's just so cool. There were fresh blackberries still all over the trail, and it was September when I went, but it was just
You
so
went by
beautiful.
yourself?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
That's
I
just
like to do
something
that.
I would never do, but I just think that's so awesome.
Well,
and I say
it's
that, but like,
special.
it sounds so awesome.
It was special. I did one in Colorado one time that was quite stupid for me to do by myself. I got halfway up and I was like, oh. And I
Mistake.
I was thinking it'd be a quick hike, and I didn't bring water, which was really
no.
dumb. And altitude's so different in Colorado. I've had to
Yeah,
learn
it
that
is.
over many years that, that was probably not the brightest, but man, let me tell you, that peak was amazing.
It was worth it.
But it was
It
not
was
the
hard.
wisest thing. I did it in Wyoming too, and I didn't realize I had candy in my backpack. So John, that was in the fit of addiction, he meets me halfway up. He's like, "You got candy all in your backpack," and I'm like, "I don't know that," because there's bears everywhere, and they'll sniff you for 5 miles. So luckily there was no bear contact, and it was
Oh, my
beautiful.
goodness.
But I love stuff like
Wild.
that.
That's amazing.
But I'm growing more aware of, in the world we live in, just not doing as much of that.
But I think that's great. I'll go with you next time.
Will you?
How
It's
far
beautiful.
is it? How long was that hike?
No, it's actually not bad. It's only a couple miles. It's easy.
Like uphill?
Yeah.
Like way uphill? Well, obviously, if you have to go to a peak.
No, yeah, it's not terrible though. Hey, we've been wanting our vision weekend anyways. We should go do that.
Okay.
We go to the cabin and go do Max Patch.
Okay.
Just say yes. Jump off the cliff.
Maybe we'll jump off that cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that peak. Yes. So tell me, I'll change the subject for you. Tell me what you're learning.
Yeah. So God, okay, first, God was really teaching me a lot, specifically at the beach. This is where I'm drawing some of this from.
Yeah.
I mean, he's constantly teaching me stuff.
Yeah.
But I have a tendency to look at the negative of stuff and dwell on the negative.
Yeah.
And not remember God's goodness and what he's brought me through. And I focus so much on the negative. And I remember sitting on the beach. I was sitting on the beach and I was sitting on a back porch. And nothing specifically that I was dwelling on, but I just like had a heaviness.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just from being away from the kids and having like anxiety over not being with them and being their protection. Yeah. Adam and I may have had an argument about something. Yeah. I don't even remember. But there was a heaviness on my heart.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God, I just decided to go out to the beach. I was by myself at that moment. And it was just like hardly anybody from side to side. And I just heard the oceans. And I was still. There's something so special, like you were just saying, being still before the Lord.
Yeah. And
God whispering to me, think about my goodness. And focus on the good. Focus on what I have brought you through. Just focus on my goodness. And so when preparing for this, specifically wanted to give you a scripture, and it was just like so perfect about what God was teaching me. But it's in Philippians 4:8. And it says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And then it goes on in 9. It says, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. And so God was like telling me that verse on the beach without me like remembering what this verse was. Yeah. He was like, think about the good things. Yeah. Think about what I have done. Admire my beauty. Yeah. Because I will give you the peace that you need. And so for you all dealing with just such tremendous hurt in the valley, I know it's hard to think about the good. But think about what God has brought you through. Think about those things, because God commanded us to, you know. God commanded us to think about his goodness. Just so many times we just lean, for me, I just think of, and, you know, I think anxiety does play a role. I never have thought of myself as having anxiety. But when certain things happen, especially when it involves my kids specifically, I think once I started having kids, I started leaning more towards that. But I lean in towards things of what could go wrong. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? And so I think that there is a healthy focus of... Okay, I'm trying to think of, I don't necessarily personally think of Adam's addiction anymore, but I was trying to, when I was preparing for this, I was thinking of our audience, right? And so I think that there's a healthy focus on the negative because you don't want to not hold somebody accountable. Right, yeah. Or you don't want to enable and just like, not think about it. I'm just going to put it out of my mind because I'm focusing on the good. So I think that there's a healthy focus, but that's also where like an accountability partner could come into play, or go into counseling where you can really tell your true feelings.
Yeah.
About maybe some of the negative that is kind of creeping in, but being able to focus on the good around your loved one specifically, because I think that will also help in their healing too.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of wives and moms and husbands and fathers and stuff, I think that that's something that people struggle with, is focusing so much on the negative that they can't move into the good and can't move into what God's calling them to focus on the good.
Yeah.
And so it is, I think there's a healthy place there, but that I think also can come into play, like I said, with a counselor, an accountability partner that you can just be truthful with, saying, this is where I'm really struggling. This is where some might call it triggers, right?
Yeah.
So the triggers coming in. And so, and I think that there is a healthy boundary to talk about it with your loved one too, especially if it's your husband.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just think that God has really been so good to reveal to me in that moment. Because I felt this overwhelming peace. And that's what it said.
Right.
The peace will be with you.
Yeah.
But I felt this overwhelming peace on the beach and in my back porch. I think I was even like singing a praise and worship song like out loud. If somebody passed by me, they'd be like, what? But I felt the peace of the Lord just saying, look at my goodness.
Yeah.
I have done so much for you that this is like, yeah, like I got this, you know?
And he does.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. That's been part of our heaviness. John and I have had a rough couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the vulnerability of opening up about that. And that is exactly what I was reminded of.
Oh, good.
Is not even that verse, but verbatim, like that feeling of remember what 6 years ago was like. Remember who y'all were 6 years ago. Remember who he was.
Remember what I brought you from.
Yes, like focus on the goodness of who he is. Focus on the goodness of the way he loves Jesus. And that you may have felt like, and me, you know, when it's tough, I'm like, oh my gosh, we've just gone back like a mile, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you haven't. You're going to have arguments and disagreements, and you're going to have stressful seasons.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that my goodness is not so good still.
It is.
And like focusing on who he is today versus who he was, who I am today versus who I was. Yeah. And it's so funny that you bring that up because I hesitated talking about that this morning and you were vulnerable. And I'm like, all right, you got to be vulnerable too. And just remember that God is good and to focus, because we do get stuck on the past, not even the past, but just the negativity of a situation. And to remember that, God, you're still good. And praise me in the storm. Praise me for what I've done, not remembering what's old.
And I just think that in that moment when I was sitting there, I think that the Lord was just so good just to give me that peace even through the vacation and to carry it on into real life once you get back to real life. But
stresses,
but just all the stresses of the world, but just like focus on his goodness. And God just, you know, calling me to be in the word more. I just think that God just, so good to teach me that. And he gave me such a peace that I had been like seeking, you know, just thinking about all of the situations and all the stuff and all the burdens and all the things. And you're just like, but God is so good and remember that. Yeah. And then he gave me that peace.
Right.
And so it was so good.
It's so good. And I feel like in that heaviness, like where you said you felt a heaviness and I've had a heaviness, I'm like, God, I know you're doing something.
Yeah.
I know that there is a heaviness. There are pullbacks. There are setbacks. There are stresses because you're working something.
Yeah.
I can't see it right now. I don't know why the enemy's fighting us right now, but I know that you are working. Though. It is. And when you can see it for that, it's like, back up, Satan.
Yeah.
Back up.
Well,
so
I love that.
Thank you for sharing that.
That is what God's teaching us. You have anything else to add?
I mean, I think that's it.
Okay.
That's the gist of what's going on.
Well, good. Well, we hope that you felt encouraged today with what God's teaching us. If you want to share what God is teaching you, we would love to hear that. If you want to comment on whatever platform you're watching this on, if you're watching this on YouTube, why don't you comment and tell us what God is really teaching you, because we would like that encouragement. Other people seeing it would love that encouragement. If you're watching, if you see this on Instagram or Facebook, comment on the post. We would love to hear what God is teaching you, because we can all learn from each other, be encouraged by each other, and we hope that you have felt encouraged. If you are watching this on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe. That helps us get the word out of who we are. And we hope that you feel blessed today, and we will see you next week.